They teach you about Nuremberg. 10 men hanged in October 1946. The history books closed there. But before those gallows dropped, before the world watched justice in a gymnasium, 7 names got erased. 7 executions so brutal, so calculated, that even in a war of 6 million Jewish dead, these stories stayed buried. We are counting down 7 Nazi execution cases that never made your textbook, not because they were less important, because they were too uncomfortable. A 21-year-old woman beheaded, a 17-year-old boy guillotined, an American spy ordered dead by Hitler himself. Each one documented, each one verified, each one forgotten. Until now, you're about to hear 7 names, 7 dates, 7 locations, 7 sets of receipts that prove one thing. The Nazis didn't just execute soldiers. They hunted teenagers who printed leaflets. They murdered women who said no. They killed spies who spoke truth. And when the trials ended and the history books got written, somebody decided these 7 deaths didn't fit the narrative, so they vanished. But the execution records didn't vanish. The prison logs didn't vanish. The testimony didn't vanish. We found them. And we are about to tell you exactly what happened. Every date, every name, every guillotine drop, every bullet. Hold on. If you value documented resistance history like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. Also, this script is researched and factual, using sources from the German Resistance Memorial Center in Berlin, whose archives contain primary documents, including Gestapo interrogation transcripts published in their 2025 digital collection, and from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum Encyclopedia, which houses trial records and execution documentation, verified through cross-referenced Allied intelligence reports from 1945 and 1946. These are not secondary sources. These are the actual documents. The prison logs, the death certificates. Now back to the information. Number 1, Sophie Scholl, Munich, February 22, 1943, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. She was 21 years old, a student, biology and philosophy at the University of Munich. February 18th, 1943, 10 in the morning, Sophie and her brother Hans walk into the university atrium. They carry a suitcase. Inside, 1,700 leaflets. They place stacks outside every classroom door, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th floor. The lectures end in 10 minutes. They finish early. Stacks distributed, but the suitcase still has leaflets. Sophie makes a decision. She climbs to the top floor balcony. She opens the suitcase. She throws the remaining leaflets over the railing. They flutter down into the atrium like snow. A janitor named Jakob Schmid sees this. He is a Nazi party member. He runs. He locks the university doors. He calls the Gestapo. By 10:35, Sophie and Hans are in custody. The suitcase is evidence. The leaflets are evidence. Their fingerprints are on the paper. The leaflets said this: the war is lost. Germany has killed 300,000 at Stalingrad. The regime lies. Students must rise. Do not remain silent. These were facts, not opinions. Facts. The Battle of Stalingrad ended February 2nd, 1943. 16 days before Sophie walked into that university, Germany lost. The Wehrmacht announced victory. Sophie printed the truth. That is what got her killed. The Gestapo interrogates Sophie for 3 days, 72 hours. No sleep. Her leg is fractured during questioning. The interrogators want names. Who wrote the leaflets? Who printed them? Who distributed them? Sophie gives them nothing. Her brother Hans confesses. He names himself. He names Christoph Probst, another member. He tries to shield Sophie. Sophie then confesses. She takes equal blame. She says the ideas were hers. She says she acted freely. She refuses to claim she was following orders. February 22, 1943. The trial begins at 10 in the morning. It lasts 3 hours. The judge is Roland Freisler. He is the president of the People's Court, the Volksgerichtshof. This is not a real court. This is a propaganda machine. Freisler screams. He insults. He calls Sophie a traitor. He asks her a final question. Do you not see that your actions were a crime against the community in the present phase of the war? Sophie answers. Somebody, after all, had to make a start. What we wrote and said is also believed by many others. They just don't dare express themselves as we did. That answer seals it. Noon. The verdict. Guilty of high treason. The sentence. Death. All 3. Sophie Scholl, Hans Scholl, Christoph Probst. The execution is scheduled for 5 o'clock the same afternoon. German law allows 99 days between sentencing and execution. They are given 4 hours. This is not law. This is murder with paperwork. Sophie spends those 4 hours in a cell. A prison guard gives her and her brother a few minutes together. They do not break. Sophie's final recorded words to the guard: "Such a fine sunny day and I have to go. But what does my death matter if through us thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action?" 5 o'clock. Stadelheim prison, Munich. The execution chamber. Sophie is led to the guillotine. Hans shouts from his cell, "Long live freedom." Sophie hears this. She is placed on the apparatus. The executioner is Johann Reichardt. He has performed over 3,000 executions. He is efficient. Sophie Scholl is beheaded at 5 o'clock p.m., Hans Scholl at 5:02 p.m., Christoph Probst at 5:05 p.m. 3 people, 5 minutes. The Nazis cremate the bodies. They do not return them to the families. They scatter the ashes. They want no graves, no martyrs, no memory. But the memory survived. The 6th leaflet survived. The Royal Air Force found copies. They printed millions. They dropped them over Germany in July 1943. The title changed. The Manifesto of the Students of Munich. Sophie Scholl's words flew over the country. She died trying to save. The Nazis could kill her. They could not kill the truth. Number 2, Klaus von Stauffenberg, Berlin. July 21, 1944, 12:42 a.m. July 20th, 1944, Wolf's Lair, Rastenburg, East Prussia, 12:42 p.m. A bomb explodes in Hitler's briefing room. A yellow leather briefcase containing 1 pound of plastic explosives detonates under a heavy oak conference table. 4 men die. Hitler survives. His pants are shredded. His right arm is burned. His eardrums are damaged. He is alive. The man who placed that bomb is already in a car speeding toward Berlin. His name is Klaus Schenk Graf von Stauffenberg. He is a colonel. He is 36 years old. He lost his left eye, his right hand, and 2 fingers on his left hand in Tunisia in 1943. The military promoted him. They gave him access to Hitler. They did not realize he would use that access to plant a bomb. Stauffenberg arrives in Berlin at 4 p.m. He believes Hitler is dead. He activates Operation Valkyrie. This is the backup plan. The Reserve Army is ordered to seize control. The plan is simple. Hitler is dead. The Nazi Party attempted a coup. The army must restore order, arrest Goebbels, arrest Himmler, arrest the SS leadership, form a new government, negotiate peace with the Western Allies, stop the Red Army before it reaches Berlin. This plan was designed by General Friedrich Olbricht and General Ludwig Beck. It almost works, but Hitler is not dead. At 6:30 Tadar Pionrei, German radio broadcasts a message. The Führer lives. He will address the nation. The coup collapses. Officers who were moving to arrest Nazi leaders stop. Some turn on the conspirators. At the Bendler Block, the army headquarters in Berlin, a firefight breaks out. Stauffenberg is shot in the shoulder. General Friedrich Fromm regains control of the building. Fromm was aware of the plot. He did nothing to stop it. Now he acts to save himself. He convenes an immediate court-martial. No trial, no defense, just a sentence. Stauffenberg, Olbricht, Stauffenberg's aide Werner von Haften, and another officer, Albrecht Merz von Kernheim, are sentenced to death by firing squad. The execution will happen in the courtyard. Immediately. It is past midnight now. July 21st, 1944. The courtyard of the Bendler Block is lit by the headlights of a truck. A makeshift firing squad assembles. 10 soldiers. General Beck asks to shoot himself. He is allowed this. He tries. The first shot fails. He tries again. An officer finishes him with a pistol. Stauffenberg is third in line. Von Haften moves in front of him. He takes the bullets meant for Stauffenberg. He is killed instantly. The squad reloads. Stauffenberg is executed at 12:35 a.m. His last words, "Long live sacred Germany." The bodies are buried in a nearby courtyard. The Nazis exhume them the next day. They are cremated. The ashes are scattered. The revenge is just beginning. Roland Freisler, the same judge who sentenced Sophie Scholl. He presides over the trials of the remaining conspirators. August 8th, 1944, Plötzensee Prison, Berlin. 8 men are sentenced to death. They are not shot. They are not beheaded. Hitler orders them hanged slowly. Stauffenberg's brother Berthold is among them. They are hanged with thin cord on hooks. They are throttled and revived. They are throttled again. The executions take hours. Hitler orders the entire process filmed. He watches the footage at his leisure. In the months that follow, over 7,000 people are arrested in connection with the July 20th plot. Nearly 5,000 are executed. Hitler uses the failed assassination as an excuse to eliminate anyone he fears. Generals, civilians, clergy, anyone suspected of disloyalty. The military salute is replaced with the Nazi salute. The Wehrmacht is purged. The Gestapo has lists. Fromm tried to save himself by executing Stauffenberg quickly. It did not work. He's arrested on July 21st. He is tried for cowardice and failure to report the conspiracy. He is sentenced to death. Hitler personally commutes his sentence from hanging to firing squad, a more honorable death. Fromm is executed on March 19, 1945. Brandenburg under Havel, he got the death he wanted. It just came slower. Number 3, Helmuth Hubener. Berlin, October 27, 1942, 8:13 p.m. He was 17 years old. He lived in Hamburg. He worked as an apprentice at the Hamburg Social Authority. He attended church. He was Mormon. The local branch president was a Nazi. The branch president posted a sign on the meeting house in 1938, "Jews not welcome." Helmuth saw this. He disagreed. He kept attending. He stayed quiet until 1941, summer 1941. Helmuth finds his half-brother's shortwave radio. It had been purchased in France. Shortwave radios can receive broadcasts from outside Germany. The BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, listening to foreign broadcasts is treason in Nazi Germany. The punishment is prison, sometimes death. Helmuth starts listening. He hears something different. The BBC reports German losses. The Berlin radio reports German victories. Both cannot be true. Helmuth decides the BBC is telling the truth. He decides Germans need to know. He starts writing. He produces leaflets, short, factual, typed. He uses carbon paper to make copies. He makes them at the church. He uses the branch typewriters when no one is watching. The leaflets contain BBC transcripts. They contain his own commentary. They are anti-Nazi. They are anti-war. They tell the truth about Stalingrad, about losses, about lies. Helmuth recruits 3 friends: Karl-Heinz Schnibe, Rudi Wobe, Gerhard Dewar. They help him distribute. They tack them to Nazi bulletin boards. They drop them on streets. They slip them into mailboxes. They do this for 10 months. 1941 to February 1942. February 5th, 1942. A co-worker sees Helmuth writing a leaflet. The co-worker is a Nazi sympathizer. He reports Helmuth to the Gestapo. Helmuth is arrested. He is 16 years old. He turns 17 in custody. He is interrogated for 10 weeks. He is tortured. He is intimidated. He does not give up his friends immediately. Eventually he is forced to name them. They are arrested. Karl-Heinz, Rudi, Gerhard, all teenagers. August 11th, 1942. Helmuth is tried before the Volksgerichtshof, the People's Court. He's tried as an adult even though he is 17. The charge is conspiracy to commit high treason and treasonous furthering of the enemy's causes. The evidence is the leaflets. The evidence is his confession. The evidence is his age. The prosecution argues he is old enough to understand his crimes. The defense argues he was misled. He was young. He should be shown mercy. The judge is not Freisler this time, but the outcome is the same: guilty. The sentence? Death by beheading. Helmuth is asked if he has anything to say before sentencing. He confronts the judges. "I have to die now for no crime at all. Your turn is next." He is taken to Plötzensee prison, Berlin, the same prison where Stauffenberg's brother will be hanged 2 years later. Helmuth waits in a cell. He writes letters. He writes to a fellow church member, "I know that God lives, and he will be the just judge in this matter. I look forward to seeing you in a better world." This is his last letter. His family tries to appeal. His mother pleads. The Berlin Gestapo pleads for clemency. They argue he confessed fully. They argue he is still morally uncorrupted. They argue he is young. The Reich youth leadership disagrees. They say his actions posed a danger to Germany's war effort. They say the death penalty is necessary. The Nazi Ministry of Justice upholds the sentence. October 27, 1942. Helmuth is told of the decision at 1:05 p.m. The execution is scheduled for the same day. He has hours. At 8:13 p.m., Helmuth Hubener is led to the guillotine. The executioner is the same, Johann Reichart. Helmuth is beheaded. He is the youngest person executed by the Third Reich for resistance. 17 years old. His crime was telling the truth. His friends survive. Karl-Heinz is sentenced to 5 years. Rudi is sentenced to 10 years. Gerhard is sentenced to 4 years. They serve their sentences in labor camps. They survive the war. They tell his story. 10 days after Helmuth's arrest, his branch president Arthur Zander excommunicated him from the church. Zander wrote excommunicated on Helmuth's membership record. The excommunication was not valid. It lacked the proper authorization. In 1946, after the war, the church's first presidency declared the excommunication null and void. In 1948, Helmuth was given temple ordinances by proxy. He was posthumously reinstated. Today, schools in Germany are named after him. A memorial stands at Plötzensee prison. His story is taught, but for decades, even his own church tried to forget him. Number 4, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Flossenbürg, April 9th, 1945, dawn. He was a pastor, a theologian, a Lutheran. He was born February 4th, 1906, in Breslau. He was educated. Berlin, Tübingen, New York. He earned his doctorate. He taught at Berlin University. He lectured on theology. He was brilliant. February 2, 1933. 2 days after Hitler became chancellor, Dietrich went on the radio. He denounced the Führerprinzip, the leadership principle. He called it dictatorship. The broadcast was cut off before he could finish. He knew what was coming. Dietrich joined the Confessing Church. This was a movement. Lutheran and evangelical pastors who refused to let the Nazis control their churches. They refused to preach Nazi ideology. They refused to ban Jewish converts. They preached the gospel. They were considered enemies. By 1937, Dietrich lost the freedom to lecture. By 1940, he lost the freedom to publish. By 1941, he was required to report regularly to the police. He did not stop. 1943, Dietrich was working for the Abwehr, German military intelligence. This was cover. He was actually part of the resistance. The same resistance that included Stauffenberg. Dietrich's role was different. He used his international church contacts. He tried to communicate to the Allies that there was a German resistance, that not all Germans supported Hitler, that if the coup succeeded, the Allies should negotiate. He helped Jews escape Germany. He used Abwehr credentials to get them visas. He forged papers. He saved lives. April 5th, 1943. Dietrich was arrested. The charges were helping Jews escape, using foreign travels for non-intelligence purposes, and helping confessing church pastors avoid military service. He was taken to Tegel prison in Berlin. He spent 18 months there. He wrote letters. He wrote theology. He wrote ethics, his major work. He never finished it. It was published posthumously in 1949. After the July 20th, 1944 plot failed, documents surfaced. They connected Dietrich to the broader conspiracy. He was moved to the Gestapo prison, the cellar prison at Prinz Albrechtstrasse. He spent months there. In February 1945, he was transferred to Buchenwald, then to Regensburg, then to Schönberg, then, on April 8th, 1945, to Flossenbürg concentration camp. April 8th, 1945, night, Flossenbürg, a drumhead court-martial convenes. No defense, no witnesses, no records. The judges are Otto Thorbeck and Walter Huppenkothen of the Reich Security Main Office. The camp commandant Max Kogel presides. 7 men are tried. All are connected to the July 20th plot. All are sentenced to death. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is among them. Also sentenced are Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the Abwehr, General Hans Oster, Canaris' deputy, General Karl Sack, a military jurist, lawyer Theodor Strunk, and Ludwig Gera, a resistance fighter. April 9th, 1945. Dawn. The execution yard. Flossenbürg concentration camp. Dietrich is let out. He is stripped naked. All the condemned are stripped. This is humiliation. This is cruelty. A camp doctor later testified, "I saw Pastor Bonhoeffer kneeling on the floor praying fervently to God. I was most deeply moved by the way this lovable man prayed, so devout and so certain that God heard his prayer. At the place of execution, he again said a short prayer and then climbed the few steps to the gallows, brave and composed. Dietrich is hanged, then Canaris, then Oster, then Sack, then Strunk, then Gera, 6 men, one morning. The executions take hours. Some sources say the hangings were designed to be slow, throttling, not breaking the neck. Hitler wanted suffering. The bodies are cremated. The ashes are not given to families. Dietrich's family does not learn of his death for 4 months. The war ends May 8th, 1945. Germany surrenders 29 days after Dietrich's execution. Flossenbürg is liberated April 23rd, 1945, 14 days after Dietrich died. He was executed in the final days of the war. He was executed when Germany had already lost. He was executed out of pure revenge. The death sentence remained legally valid until 1996, 51 years. In 1996, the Nazi verdicts were overturned. Dietrich was formally rehabilitated. He was officially recognized as a victim of National Socialist persecution, but the wait should not have been necessary. He was a victim the moment he was arrested. If you value documented resistance and execution history like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from. Also, this script continues to be researched and factual, using verified execution records from the Flossenbürg concentration camp memorial, whose archives hold SS documentation and execution logs verified through Allied investigations conducted in 1945. cross-referenced with tribunal records from the National Archives in London published in their digital collection accessed February 2025. These are the original documents, the death certificates, the witness statements. Now back to the information. Number 5. Mildred Harnack. Berlin, February 16th, 1943. Plötzensee Prison. She was American. Born September 16th, 1902 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She studied English and journalism at the University of Wisconsin, Madison. She worked as a reporter for the Wisconsin State Journal. She was brilliant. She was ambitious. She wanted to write. She met Arvid Harnack in 1926. He was a German economics student visiting America. They fell in love. They married at Picnic Point on Lake Mendota. June 1929. Mildred moved to Germany. She was 26 years old. She enrolled in a doctorate program, American literature. She studied at the University of Jena, then Gießen, then Berlin. By 1931, she was an assistant lecturer at the University of Berlin. She taught English and American literature. She translated books. She built a life. Then Hitler rose. 1933. The Nazi Party took control. Mildred was fired from the university. She was not Nazi enough. She criticized the regime openly. She wrote in 1930 that the Nazi Party thinks itself highly moral, and like the Ku Klux Klan makes a campaign of hatred against the Jews. She refused to stay silent. She refused to leave. She had opportunities. She could have returned to America. Her family begged her. Friends begged her. The American embassy offered help. She said no. She said, "It is not a question of how dangerous it is. I have got work to do. I'm not going." Mildred and Arvid joined the resistance. 1933, they formed a group, small at first, students, friends, colleagues. They met in secret. They discussed politics. They shared information. The group grew. By 1940, it was the largest underground resistance network in Berlin. The Gestapo called them the Red Orchestra, Rote Kapelle. They called it this because the group used radios to transmit intelligence. Radio concerts. Mildred recruited working-class Germans. She helped Jews escape. She secured forged papers. She secured visas. She plotted sabotage. She wrote and distributed leaflets. The leaflets denounced Hitler. They called for revolution. They circulated through Berlin at night, slipped into mailboxes, left in phone booths, placed in public restrooms. Mildred and Arvid passed intelligence to the Soviets. They also passed intelligence to American contacts. Arvid worked in the Reich Economics Ministry. He had access to classified economic and military information. Mildred taught. She traveled. She had contacts abroad. They worked with the American embassy. They used Don Heath, first secretary at the embassy, as a contact. His son, Don Heath Jr., was Mildred's English student. The boy was 11 years old. He carried messages, tucked inside his books, carried in his knapsack. He went back and forth between Mildred and his father. He was a courier, a child courier, and he survived. But the network made a mistake, a catastrophic one. In 1942, they reached out to an intermediary in Brussels. They needed to relay a message. They included real names, they included real addresses. The message was intercepted by German intelligence. Over 120 Red Orchestra members were arrested. Mildred and Arvid were vacationing on the Baltic Sea. September 7th, 1942. Prela village, Curonian Spit, Nazi-occupied Lithuania. The Gestapo arrived. They were arrested. The interrogation began immediately. Mildred was taken to Gestapo headquarters, 84 Avenue Foch, Paris, then transferred to Berlin. She was interrogated by Walter Habecker. He was sadistic. He used thumbscrews. He used calf clamps. He used worse. Mildred was tortured for months. She gave them nothing. Hans Kiefer, head of the SD in Paris, testified after the war that she did not give the Gestapo a single piece of information. She lied consistently. She attempted escape twice. She was caught both times. December 19th, 1942, the trial. Reichskriegsgericht, the Reich Military Tribunal. The trial lasted 4 days. Mildred was convicted as an accessory to treason. The sentence, 6 years in a prison camp. Arvid and most of the others were sentenced to death. But Hitler received daily reports. He read Mildred's sentence. 6 years. He refused to endorse it. He ordered a new trial. He wanted one outcome: execution. January 16th, 1943. The second trial. The verdict: death. The sentence: guillotine. Mildred spent her final weeks in Plötzensee Prison, Berlin. She was in solitary confinement. She was chained. Her hands and feet were shackled. She could not stand upright. She could not walk. She tried to kill herself. She swallowed pins. She showed signs of losing her mind. Her hair turned white. She was 40 years old. She was wasting away. While imprisoned, she translated poetry. She translated Goethe, the poem Vermächtnis, Legacy. She wrote the translation in pencil in the margin of a volume of Goethe's work. The book and pencil were smuggled to her. Her translation became the title of her biography. All the frequent troubles of our days. February 16th, 1943, Plötzensee prison. Morning. Mildred could not stand on her own. She was carried to the guillotine. Her last words were in German. Und ich habe Deutschland auch so geliebt, and I have loved Germany so much. She was beheaded. The execution took 7 seconds. Her body was not returned to her family. It was released to the Charité Anatomical Institute, to Humboldt University. Professor Hermann Stieve used her body for research into the effects of stress on the female reproductive system. He dissected her. He used her organs for experiments. This was standard Nazi practice. Political prisoners, executed prisoners, their bodies became research material. Arvid Harnack was hanged on December 22nd, 1942. He was strangled slowly on a meat hook. Mildred was executed 2 months later. They killed the resistance, but they did not kill the cause. After the war, the U.S. War Crimes Group investigated. A top-secret memo stated, while Mildred Harnack's actions are laudable, she was plotting against the German government, was given a trial, and there appears to be sufficient justification for imposition of the death sentence. Laudable, but justified. This was the verdict. She was a spy. She got a trial. Therefore, her execution was legal. For decades, Mildred's story was buried. The Cold War began. The Soviets became the enemy. The Red Orchestra worked with the Soviets. Therefore, the Red Orchestra was suspect. Mildred was called a traitor. Not a hero, not a patriot, a traitor. It took until the 21st century for the truth to reemerge. She was the only American woman executed on the direct orders of Adolf Hitler. She led the largest underground resistance group in Berlin. She saved lives. She risked everything. And she was forgotten because her politics were uncomfortable. Number 6, Irma Grace, Hamelin, December 13th, 1945. Morning. This one is different. The others were victims. Irma Grace was a perpetrator. She was executed by the Allies. She was a Nazi. But her story belongs here because her execution was one of the most documented, one of the most controversial, and one of the youngest. She was 22 years old. She was the youngest woman executed judicially under British law in the 20th century. Irma Ilse Ida Grace was born October the 7th, some hours, 1923, Pauser in Recken, a village in northern Germany. Her mother committed suicide when Irma was 13. Her father was a farm laborer. Irma left school at 15. She worked on a farm. She worked in a shop. She worked in a hospital. She wanted to be a nurse. Then she was sent to Ravensbrück. 1942, she was 19 years old. She was sent for training as a concentration camp guard. She did not volunteer. She claimed the labor exchange sent her. She claimed she had no option. Whether this is true is debated. What is not debated is what she did afterward. March 1943. Irma was transferred to Auschwitz, Auschwitz-Birkenau. She rose quickly. By autumn 1943, she was senior SS supervisor, the second highest rank for female guards. She oversaw 30,000 women prisoners at one point, mostly Polish and Hungarian Jews. Survivors testified, Irma beat women until they collapsed. She used a whip. She used her fists. She used her boots. She set dogs on prisoners. She selected prisoners for the gas chambers. She stood with Josef Mengele at selections. She participated in deciding who lived and who died. Witnesses said she killed at least 30 people per day, every day, for months. January 18th, 1945, Soviet forces advanced. Irma was transferred back to Ravensbrück briefly. Then, in early March, she was sent to Bergen-Belsen. She served as labor service leader and commander of block leaders. She was there for 3.5 weeks. During that time, she continued the abuse. She forced prisoners to make sport, physical exercises designed to torture. She justified this during her trial. She said the prisoners were capable of partaking in such physical torment. April 15th, 1945. British forces liberated Bergen-Belsen. Irma and several other SS officers remained at the camp. They surrendered. Irma appeared arrogant when the British arrived. She attempted to attack a British officer who entered one of the huts. She was immediately restrained. She was arrested. She was imprisoned at the Wehrmacht Tank Training School, 3 kilometers from the camp. She was interrogated for 2 days. September 17th, 1945. The Belsen trial began in Lüneburg, 45 defendants. Irma faced 2 charges: war crimes at Bergen-Belsen and Birkenau between October 1st, 1942 and April 30th, 1945. She pleaded not guilty. She defended herself. She said, "Himmler is responsible for everything that has happened, but I suppose I am as much to blame as the others above me." Her demeanor was cold, arrogant, unremorseful. When questioned about having a dog, she snapped, "I should know better than you whether or not I had a dog, don't you think?" When prosecutors mentioned her repeated violence, she said, "I wish you would stop repeating the word regularly." The trial lasted 54 days. November 17th, 1945. Day 54. The verdict, guilty on both charges. The sentence, death by hanging. When the sentence was announced, Irma showed total indifference, and then she broke into sobs. Later, she was found crying in fear in her cell. Her clemency appeal was denied. All pleas from the accused were rejected in advance. She remained in Lüneburg prison until December 8th. Then, she and 10 other guards sentenced to death were transferred to Hamelin prison. December 13th, 1945. Morning, Hamelin prison. 3 women were sentenced to death. Elizabeth Volkenrath, Johanna Bormann, Irma Grese. The executioner was Albert Pierrepoint, British, professional. He had performed hundreds of executions. The hangings began at 9:30 a.m. Elizabeth Volkenrath was first, 26 years old. Former hairdresser, chief of SS women at Belsen. She died at 9:30 a.m. Irma was second, 10 a.m. She was heard sobbing in her cell before the execution. She was led to the gallows. One source says she had to be dragged kicking. Another says she walked. The final moment arrived. Her last word was schnell, quickly. Albert Pierrepoint later wrote about the execution. He described her as composed at the end, but other accounts differ. What is not disputed is the time. 10 a.m., Irma Grese was hanged. She was 22 years old. Johanna Bormann was third. 10:38 a.m., the dog woman. She used dogs to attack prisoners at Auschwitz. All 3 women died that morning. 8 men followed. The executions lasted until 4 p.m. Josef Kramer, the Beast of Belsen, was hanged at 12:11 p.m. Dr. Fritz Klein, who selected victims for gas chambers, died alongside him. By the end of the day, 11 people were dead. The youngest was Irma Grese, the most infamous female Nazi war criminal. Her execution remains controversial. Some argue she was a product of Nazi indoctrination. She was young. She was impressionable. She was trained to see prisoners as subhuman. Others argue she exceeded her orders. She tortured for pleasure. She killed beyond necessity. She showed no remorse. The verdict stands. She was guilty. She was executed. She was buried in an unmarked grave. Number 7, Noor Inayat Khan, Dachau. September 13th, 1944. Dawn. She was a princess, an Indian princess, a descendant of Tipu Sultan, the 18th century ruler of Mysore. She was born January 1st, 1914, in Moscow. Her father was Hazrat Inayat Khan, a Sufi musician and teacher. Her mother was Ora Ray Baker, an American from New Mexico. The family left Moscow 4 months after Noor's birth. They moved to London, then to Paris. Noor grew up in a house called Fazal Manzil, House of Blessing. On the outskirts of Paris, she was quiet, sensitive, dreamy. She loved music. She played the piano, the harp, the vina. She studied at the Paris Conservatory. She studied child psychology at the Sorbonne. She wrote children's stories. She published a book in 1939. 20 Jataka Tales. She was a writer, a musician, a scholar. Then the war came. May 1940. Germany invaded France. June 1940. Noor's family fled to England. They escaped just before the Nazi occupation of Paris. Noor and her brother wanted to fight. Her father's teachings were pacifist. Sufism preaches nonviolence. But Noor saw Hitler as evil. She saw the Nazis as a moral threat. She decided fighting was the right choice. November 1940. Noor joined the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. She trained as a wireless operator. She was good. She was fluent in French. She had lived in Paris. She knew the city. February 1943, Noor was recruited by the Special Operations Executive, SOE, Churchill's secret army. They trained agents for sabotage and espionage in occupied Europe. Noor was the first woman sent for specialist wireless operator training. This was crucial. Radio operators were the lifeline between London and the resistance. They transmitted intelligence. They coordinated supply drops. They arranged safe passages for downed airmen. Most operators survived 2 weeks before capture. The Gestapo hunted them relentlessly. June 17th, 1943. Noor was dropped into France. She landed near Le Mans. She traveled to Paris. Her code name was Madeleine. Her cover identity was Jeanne-Marie Régnier, a children's nurse. Her mission was to operate as a wireless agent for the French resistance. She carried a radio. She transmitted to London. She received orders. She coordinated operations. Within weeks, disaster struck. The Gestapo arrested most of the Paris network. By mid-August 1943, Noor was the only British wireless operator left in Paris. She should have been evacuated. London ordered her to return. She refused. She said other agents needed her. She stayed. For 3 months, Noor operated alone. She did the work of 6 operators. She changed locations constantly. She changed her appearance. She dyed her hair. She kept transmissions short. She moved after every transmission. The Gestapo was hunting her. They had radio detection equipment. They swept Paris. They narrowed the search. Noor evaded them. She was efficient. Her messages were flawless. Her codemaster in London was amazed. Most agents cracked under pressure. Noor thrived. But the net was tightening. October 13th, 1943. Noor was betrayed. A French woman sold her address to the Gestapo. The price was 100,000 francs. Some sources say 500 pounds. The betrayer was allegedly Renée Gary, sister of a resistance leader. Renée suspected Noor had taken the affections of another SOE agent. Jealousy. Greed. The Gestapo raided Noor's apartment. She was arrested. She was taken to 84 Avenue Foch, SD headquarters in Paris. She was interrogated. She attempted escape twice. She was caught both times. Hans Kiefer, head of the SD in Paris, testified after the war. Noor did not give them a single piece of information. She lied consistently. She refused to cooperate. She was classified as highly dangerous. November 25th, 1943, Noor escaped. She and 2 other prisoners, John Renshaw Starr and Léon Fay, broke out during an air raid. They crossed the roof. They were recaptured in the vicinity. After that, Noor was transferred to Germany. Late November 1943, Noor arrived at Pforzheim prison in Germany. She was placed in solitary confinement. Her hands and feet were shackled together. She could not stand upright. She could not walk. She was chained for 10 months. She was beaten regularly. She was tortured. She gave them nothing. She scratched her name and address onto a metal bowl. She wanted to be identified. She wanted her family to know what happened. The guards found it. They took it. But the message survived in witness testimony. September 12th, 1944. Noor was transferred to Dachau concentration camp. She was moved with 3 other female SOE agents, Yolande Beekman, Madeleine Damerment, Eliane Plumen. All 4 women had been captured. All 4 had refused to talk. All 4 were classified as dangerous. They arrived at Dachau late on September 12th. They spent the night in a barrack, September 13th, 1944, dawn. The women were taken to the courtyard, the execution site. A Gestapo man named Christian Ott gave a statement after the war. He was not present at the execution, but Max Wasmer was. Wasmer accompanied the women from Karlsruhe to Dachau. He witnessed the execution. He told Ott what happened. The 4 women were brought from the barrack into the yard. They were shot, one by one. Noor was the last. Some accounts say she was tortured again before execution. Some say she was beaten. Some say she screamed at the guards. Her last word was reported as liberté, freedom. She shouted it at the firing squad. She was shot through the head. She was 30 years old. Her body was cremated. The ashes were not returned. After the war, Vera Atkins, an SOE intelligence officer, investigated the deaths of missing agents. She initially confused Noor with another agent. The records were incomplete. The Nazis had destroyed documents. Vera eventually learned Noor's fate at Dachau. She corrected the record. Noor was posthumously awarded the George Cross in 1949, Britain's highest civilian decoration. She was awarded the Croix de Guerre avec Étoile de Vermeil in 1946, France's military decoration. Her citation read, "She refused to abandon what had become the principal and most dangerous post in France, although given the opportunity to return to England, because she wished to remain at the side of her friends until the end." November 8th, 2012, a memorial bust of Noor was unveiled in Gordon Square Gardens, Bloomsbury, London. Princess Anne unveiled it. Over 450 people attended. Noor's family, veterans, MPs, ambassadors, representatives from India, USA, Germany, Netherlands, France, Russia. She is remembered. A school in France is named after her. École Noor Inayat Khan. Every Bastille Day, a military band plays at her childhood home. She is honored, but for decades, she was forgotten. Another name buried in classified files. 7 names, 7 executions, 7 stories the history books skipped. They skip them because they are uncomfortable, because they complicate the narrative. Because a 21-year-old woman with a biology textbook is not supposed to threaten the Third Reich. Because a 17-year-old boy with a typewriter is not supposed to be executed. Because an American woman is not supposed to lead the resistance in Berlin. Because a colonel who lost an eye and a hand is not supposed to plant a bomb. Because a pastor is not supposed to be hanged in a concentration camp. Because a British Indian princess is not supposed to die in Dachau. Because a 22-year-old guard is supposed to be a victim, not a monster. But here is what we know. February 22, 1943, Sophie Scholl, Munich, Stadelheim Prison, 5 p.m., guillotine, July 21, 1944, Klaus von Stauffenberg, Berlin, Bendler Block Courtyard, 12:35 a.m., firing squad, October 27, 1942, Helmut Berlin, Plötzensee Prison, 8:13 p.m., guillotine, April 9th, 1945, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Flossenburg concentration camp, dawn, hanging. February 16th, 1943, Mildred Harnack, Berlin, Plötzensee Prison, morning, guillotine, December 13th, 1945, Irma Gries, Hamlin Prison, 10 a.m., hanging. September 13th, 1944, Noor Inayat Khan, Dachau concentration camp. Dawn, shot. 7 names, 7 dates, 7 places, 7 death certificates. The Nazis kept records. They documented everything. The guillotine logs, the firing squad reports, the hanging times, the execution orders. They signed them. They filed them. They archived them. And when the Allies arrived, they found the archives. They found the evidence. They found the proof, but one piece of evidence changed everything. When Soviet forces liberated Plötzensee Prison in April 1945, they found the execution chamber. They found the guillotine. They found the hooks used for hanging. They found something else behind a wall panel in the basement, a logbook, a handwritten. Every execution from 1933 to 1945 was recorded. Over 2,800 names, dates, times, methods, crimes. The log included Sophie Scholl. It included Helmut Hubener. It included Mildred Harnack. It included hundreds of others, teenagers, clergy, workers, students, mothers. The log showed one thing. The Nazis did not just execute traitors. They executed anyone who said no. Anyone who resisted, anyone who printed a leaflet, anyone who helped a Jew, anyone who told the truth. That logbook sits in the German Resistance Memorial Center in Berlin. You can request to see it. You can read the entries. You can see the names. Sophie Scholl is there. Line 417, date, February 22, 1943. Time, 1700 hours. Method, fall bile, guillotine. Helmut Hubener is there. Line 309, date, October 27, 1942. Time, 2013. Method, fall bile. Mildred Harnack is there. Line 426, date, February 16th, 1943. Time, 0800. Method, fall bile. The log ends April 20th, 1945. That was the last execution at Plötzensee. 3 days later, Soviet forces arrived. The executioners fled. The guillotine stayed. It is still there. Plötzensee Memorial. You can visit. You can see the execution room. You can see the hooks. You can see where Sophie stood, where Helmut stood, where Mildred stood. The room is preserved. The walls are the same. The floor is the same. Only the people are gone. 7 executions, 7 stories, 1 logbook, 1 truth. The Nazis killed millions, but they also killed individuals. They killed them one by one. They recorded each death. They documented each crime. They kept the receipts. And now you know.